Teacher Success Champion. So I get to help different teachers with professional learning and just understanding how to use Kami in a fun way to disguise the learning and make it engaging. So go ahead, Ted.
My name is Ted Samaras. I am an instructional technology coach from New Jersey. I work in Franklin Township. There's like 10 of them here in New Jersey. So I am the one in Somerset, in case any of you are familiar with that. Just like Steph, I am a Google trainer, innovator. So now I guess we're Google champions. And this kind of came about, like, I know Stephanie's always done like great work like in Ohio and all over the country and all that. And this kind of came about as like a casual conversation about a mustache one day. So and now it has evolved into this. So thank you for joining us. One quick fun fact is that for this fake mustache, I actually had to shave today to get it on. If you would have waited a couple of weeks for Movember, I would have had a real mustache and wouldn't have needed the fake one. So
yeah, that is true.
Yeah.
So we're going to be just talking about learning in disguise. And I don't know about you, but there are multiple times where I've had to do this with students because sometimes I look at the curriculum or the learning and I'm just like, oh my gosh, why are they not listening? Why are they not participating? Why is it silent? Or maybe it's chaotic. And a lot of times I like to use my son as some examples. So my son one day was like, Mom, I'm not cleaning up the mess of toys. Okay. And so I'm like, I really need my house to be clean because I'm very like type A and I love everything organized. And he decided not to do it. So what I did is I started to disguise this activity. So what I did is I told him, I have a timer and we're going to set a timer for 5 minutes and we're going to see if you can beat the timer. AJ was so engaged that he cleaned up all the toys within 3 minutes. And so I think sometimes you have a way to take knowledge to your students, whether it is that social emotional learning of cleaning up or working on executive functioning skills. But sometimes it might be actual learning happening in your classroom. And so with AJ, when he got so excited about this game that I just made up really quickly, and all I did was I changed my verbiage a little bit and I added a timer. That was two quick things that I could do in order to get my house to look beautiful, right? And to get him to clean up those toys. So some activities we share today are going to be really easy, just like that, where you can add it right on top of your curriculum and you can just go with it. Some ideas might make you a little bit out of your comfort zone, but just kind of know we're going to share a lot of resources today and a lot of ideas. And so what we want you to do is take away one idea that you're able to use in your classroom on Monday because you're not in school tomorrow. So what's one thing that you can do to just kind of make your learning more engaging? Also in our slide deck, there's a lot more resources than what we're going to talk about. So Ted, what is something that you've done to disguise either your students or your own kids? Anything?
Yeah, no, lots of stuff. A lot of like game-based type of stuff. Like you're talking about here. I work primarily with teachers. And so it works very well in PDs, especially when you try to gamify, the ones that are required. So like, state testing, we use NJSLA, which is formerly PARC, which is formerly something else, right? But a lot of that we'll do like escape rooms, we'll do some game-based learning, we'll do puzzles, we'll do that type of thing. My kids are now 22 and 19. So they're a little bit older than Stephanie's kids, but at the end of the day, we did do a lot of things like that. The more colorful you can make things, the more interactive you can make things. We definitely have it here. The couple of things that I'll share with you today as well. Don't worry about how to build it. If you want to know how to build it, you'll get the resources. But if you want to know how to build one from scratch, you can always reach out to me on Twitter/X. You can reach out to me via email. I'm more than happy to help. So don't get hung up on wait, what button did he click and all that. Just kind of get a general idea of how you might be able to use it.
And we are going to share all the resources at the end. So you'll get a bit.ly and you'll have everything that you need at the end of the session. So we'll go ahead and get started with our first bucket or our first category. We're going to be talking about these 3 different categories. So the first one is game-based learning. Then we're going to go into interactive learning, making our learners very curious, and then some surprise and delights that we can do that are really fun. And again, we're going to cover one from each area and go into a little bit more detail. There is another section today after the expo hall and networking. So if you're like interested or you want to see more, we're going to cover different topics, same slide deck, but just different topics in more detail in that second session. So game-based learning. This again is probably one of my favorite things to use when it comes to student learning, because I just take what I have. I take the questions I need to teach from, I take the content that I need to use, and I make it into a game. So this first one right here is called Capture the Flag. So with Capture the Flag, what happens is students are in groups. So typically students, I like to use 3 as kind of my magic number for groups that I found that works really well. When I have 5, I found that usually 2 students don't work and everybody else is doing their job. So 3 I found is a really good number for group work. After they're in groups, the students then answer questions. Sometimes I just take a worksheet. Sometimes I take ChatGPT. I'll just go to ChatGPT and have it create me 20 questions about whatever I'm teaching. Or I might just have questions or task cards laying around. Once I have those questions, I will add them to either like a document, a Kami assignment, a piece of paper. It really doesn't matter what I use. And after my students answer one question, so as they answer one question, and if you wanted to, you could say after 3 questions, that's kind of up to you. But I usually do 1 because I like that immediate feedback that my students get from the check-in with me. I am on my feet. I usually get 10,000 steps when I do this activity, and I'm just running around the room. Okay, so I'm kind of like crazy. I have an answer key already set. Sometimes it's multiple choice type questions. Sometimes it is short answer. Or sometimes they have to explain it to me. And I'm going around and I'm checking it. And then on their piece of paper, what I'm doing is I just have a marker with me and I just put a star on how they did for that assignment. After that, if the students get it correct, there are these little flags. Sometimes I will put magnets on the back of these and I'll put them up on my board. Other times I will have them at students' desk. And what happens is if the students get it correct, they get to take from another team. So if they're on the whiteboard, I'll have team 1 with so many flags, team 2 with so many flags, team 3 with so many flags. And then the students grab whichever team they want to, and they take a flag from each of those different teams. Another thing is I might have them at the desk and the students have to actually go to that desk and like take it. Sometimes if I'm feeling like I want to create some chaos and some anger feelings in my room of like, oh my gosh, team 2 keeps stealing from me. I like to do that. But then at the end of the game, these colors, students don't know how much points they're worth. So these are just worth so many points, or you can make them the same. Again, totally up to you. But what happens is at the game, whoever has the most points is our winner. So down here on the last slide, I have the green flag is 5 points. The pink flag is 3 points. This one is 6 points. And then this one's 10 points. And I change it every single time we play so the students don't know. Or sometimes I keep them the same because I forgot to change them. Sometimes I change them because I teach multiple classes. So I'll change it for period 1 and period 2 has a different one because a kid told period 2 that the purple flag or the pink flag is worth 3 points. And so after my students play, they tally up their points and then we have a winner. So again, it's very engaging. Students are getting immediate feedback because I'm walking around the room, checking their answers. They're stealing from another teammate. And then again, at the end of the game, they find out those points, they add them up, and then the team with the most wins some type of prize. Sometimes when I'm teaching fractions, if you're a math teacher, make these fractions or make them decimal points, whatever you're teaching in math, because then they just have to kind of figure that out as well. So this again is capture the flag. You just need any type of questions and then your students are ready to go.
Okay, and can you guys still hear me out there? Yep. Okay, there we are. All right. I'm sorry, my computer wanted to play Learning in Disguise too, so there may be a little bit of that today. So I apologize. The next one we wanted to talk about was digital escape rooms. And you don't, just because they're called digital doesn't mean that you have to make it all digital, right? You can use this. This is a nice way to kind of hold it in as a, like if you're doing like a hybrid, so you can have the students or the teachers walk around the room, find different things, different locks, all that kind of stuff. But what is nice about this too is that not only do you have them go through the experience on a Google form, but you capture all of the feedback in a Google sheet. So a lot of the things you're tracking, you can get for your students. And this is a sample one that I have here. And you can see you could tailor it for whatever you want. So for you guys, I tailored it. I know Ohio's a big state, so I understand that there's more than just Ohio. But what I did was you can set it up where you can ask all your demographic questions first, and then you can start by testing your knowledge of the Buckeye State. So, how many presidents were born in Ohio?
I'm going to need help from the audience.
That's what I was hoping for too.
Does anyone teach social studies? 4, I heard.
4. All right. So one of the choices is 4. So I'm going to press on 4 and let's see what happens. Okay. It took me back to here. The reason why is because I have it set up so the multiple choice questions will go back to the same section if the answer is not correct. The only one that will go through is the one that's correct. So if I tried 2, it also takes me back to the same question.
I heard 7.
Okay, well, we're almost there. So let me click on 7. And yes, so now it's letting me to the next question. Okay, so then the next question is, which I know is a little sore subject in Ohio, but of the 4 presidents to be assassinated, how many of them were from Ohio? Go ahead, yell it out. I can't hear you in New Jersey.
1. Is that what I heard?
1, and see what happens.
Not 1. 2. 2.
It's 2. It's 2. And now with the next question, you'll get to see.
Does anyone know which 2? What?
I do, but we'll get to it though. I don't want to give away the next answer.
Oh, okay.
So then with the next one, right? If I go through, right? I think the next answer will only using the Ohio president from New Jersey. What's his middle initial? And so the answer there is A. But did you catch that? It's the letter A is the middle initial for the president, is the only president to die in New Jersey. And so if you put that in, and it's a capital A. So you can see there that it gives you a hint. It says, please type in all capitals, that type of thing. So, and actually that answer is James A. Garfield. So the 2 presidents were McKinley and Garfield within like 20 years of each other. But James A. Garfield, for those of you social studies or presidential history nerds like me, James A. Garfield, even though he was not shot in New Jersey, he died at the presidential retreat down in Long Branch, New Jersey, which is like 20 minutes from my house. So now they've knocked that hotel down and all that. It's actually somebody's private residence, and they have a little plaque there. But the point is that you can take these escape rooms, you can make them as complicated or as simple as you want to. You can make it where, it says, you have this code here. Please, go ahead and now, find a lock in the back of the room or go down to room. You can make it a whole school-wide thing, but it's a nice way to kind of house it. So this is real popular, like I said, for PDs too, because, the teachers don't want to sit there and be talked to 45 minutes to an hour, especially like click a button, don't click a button, that type of thing. So That's a way to think about using escape rooms. And like I said, you'll have these resources. You can play with the escape room. And if you want to know how to build, I'll be happy to show you.
And I think too, just that immediate feedback is huge. So can we just touch real quick on how you did that?
Yes, we can. So if you open up, right, so if you're opening up the form there, right, there's two different techniques I used, right? One was multiple choice, and what it does is it puts you to a section based on the answer. So there's 3 dots at the bottom of the question. I highly encourage you, whenever you're in a Google product, to click the 3 dots. There's usually something behind them that could be helpful. So in this one here, it's go to section based on answer. So what you do need to do is you do need to think about the number of sections you have, right? And maybe make the sections first. But what you can do is you can actually take the question and say, okay, if this is right, go here. If this is wrong, go here. So that this way too, if you're doing it as a review, if students need more support on a particular area, it could take them to one section of your form. If they answer a couple of questions and all of a sudden it seems like they know everything with that area, they can do that. This is also really good with if you want to do like a choose your own adventure. I've built some of those as well using the same technique. So if you want to give students choice and they're going to write a paper, and you want them to go through like kind of like a map like this, you say, where, if you were writing a book today, where would you be? And you could have like under a tree, on the beach, in the city at like an indie bookstore, whatever you want to do, but you kind of can set a theme that way. So by doing that with the multiple choice, you can go to the different sections. The one other thing I'll make mention of real quick, so we can bounce back to Stephanie, is also that with the short answer ones, when she put in like the A for Garfield, or different types of questions, you can have it where it needs to contain certain certain letters, certain words, certain codes, something like that. And again, that would be behind the 3 dots. That's really good if you want to have it more of an open-ended question, but also like I know you guys are here at this technology thing. I'm sure 1 or 2 of you probably have to deal with Chromebook management maybe on a daily basis, and so like you want to validate the data and make sure that a parent or guardian or whatever is putting in a 6-digit number. You can do that too. Or if you want to review it for math and have it equal to or less to, or text contain, whatever you think you can do with this, you can do with it. And then you can always put a hint line in as well. So you kind of prompt the student to do some more things. And now Stephanie's showing you a fancy example where she's putting in that emoji too. But yeah, like I said, don't let the tool, if you're not sure how to press something, don't let that stop you. Think about what you want to do, and then I can help you get there from there.
So again, that was interactive learning with digital escape rooms. Now we're getting our students a little bit curious about what they're about to learn. And so one of my favorite ones is this innovation challenge. And when it comes to innovation, what happens is I saw this idea on Twitter or X, so whatever you want to call it. And I saw this picture and I just love this idea. And one of the things that I thought was this would be really cool with design thinking. And so there's a website right here where the students are able to go to it. It's Protobot, and it will come up with different prompts. Oh, that was a good one. It said design directions or something for a spy. Oh, why did I have to hit randomize? Design a pet for a rock star. Okay, so maybe that's our challenge for the day. Students have some type of challenge. And again, if you hit randomize, it will come up with all of these different challenges that are kind of cool. So design a raincoat for somebody who has a cold. And then what the students do is I have a timer, and they develop 4 different ideas, 4 different prototypes for what this coat could look like. Sometimes I'll just set a timer for 4 minutes. Sometimes I'll do 30 seconds or 1 minute per box. And then the students draw or they write out their ideas for what this raincoat would look like for someone who has a cold. And you start to allow students to brainstorm, get really creative. And you don't have to use this website. Maybe you have an idea for something that's happening in your curriculum that can just help engage your students in the content that you're about to teach for the day. And again, it can take 2 minutes to 4 minutes. If you want to do 30 seconds per box, then you have 2 minutes. If you want to do 4 minutes, then 1 minute per box. And after the students come up with their ideas or their sketches or their thoughts, they then pick one idea. And you could have a think, pair, share, where students collaborate together and they really think about which idea they like the best. Or you could have the students decide on their own. So sometimes I like to get peer feedback in there just so we can get better at working together with groups, because a lot of times I heard some negative comments when we were working together with groups. So this is one opportunity where you can start to create that growth mindset and positive language and maybe provide your students with some sentence stems. After the students decide their idea, their protocol, or their prototype, they then will draw a final sketch. And sometimes it's like a +1 idea that their partner had. Hey, I love this idea, but did you think about adding this? And you could add this. And so they'll sketch what they're thinking. Then they have to explain how it's going to work. Then they have to name their product and come up with a slogan. And again, you could totally edit any of these boxes to match maybe something that you're working on. So maybe instead of a slogan, they have to come up with a simile. Or maybe they have to come up with personification, or they have to explain the budget or something like that, or whatever you can kind of think about to connect with your curriculum. Feel free to edit this. But then you can pick a few students to maybe share. They could do this with a group. They could do it individually. And then they just share their intervention. So again, it kind of comes out with maybe a 7-minute to 10-minute activity, as it might take a little bit longer the first time you do it. But if you rinse and repeat this activity and you do it maybe every Monday or every Tuesday and Thursday, your students are going to get faster and faster at it. And then you can just pick a couple students to share their ideas with the class. So that's one way to make your students really curious about what they're about to learn. Oh, you're muted, Ted.
Oh man, New Jersey's killing me today. All right, so yes, but yeah, no, it's great that you can use it in so many different disciplines too, Stephanie. That you really can just kind of grab it. And what's nice is that, like, I know, like, the way my teachers are set up, sometimes they're in a content meeting, and sometimes they're in a grade level meeting where it's a whole team. So even for things like, positive behavior or all those type of things, where like you're looking to just kind of jazz it up a little bit, but maybe the math teacher doesn't always talk to the English teacher, but they're on the same team. Techniques like you were showing there are really good. So thanks for sharing that one.
Yeah, no problem.
The last one here that we want to talk about was a surprise and delight. And we're going to do guess the year for this one. And so you can see it's a spreadsheet. So please don't panic for those of you who have spreadsheet phobia. Right, it's in Google Sheets. All right, there is a little bit of conditional formatting in here, and we can show you that in a second. But what you want to keep in mind is that you can see that you have different things here, right? Like different questions, like the JFK assassination, right? 1963. Don't worry, it's not an assassination themed presentation. That's the only one I'm talking about there. But like there's a whole bunch of things here that come out of the 60s. And so you can see here that I've already filled out 19 out of 20. And you can see my total score in the bottom right that I have 19 correct. Now on that 20th one, if I was to go ahead and I was to say John Glenn orbited the Earth, does anybody happen to know what year that is? Ohioans? I think it was 1962, if I recall. So let me try it and see what happens. So if I try 1962, right, what happens is that you can see that box actually filled in green, right, the conditional formatting. But what I also did was that I had this box fill in with the word groovy, hence, from the 60s. So just to show you kind of a little bit of the inner workings of it, if I go ahead and extend that spreadsheet, you can see I had these 4 columns hidden that I just displayed, starting with columns G, H, I, and J that were hidden. And basically I have it set up where, if whatever the first answer is, like whatever's in C3 matches G3, then the conditional formatting here will be green, and it will assign it a point. Same thing, man lands on the moon 1969, right? If I go here and I change it to 1963, they don't match up. And so therefore that answer becomes yellow again. And also I don't get a point in column I. Once I don't get one of these 20 points, you'll see that down below in a big green box, it says false. Okay, so what it does is basically turning it off. And then whenever I get everything true again, it will then show up the word groovy. So you might say to yourself, all right, that's a lot of work to get that done. Once you start getting in the swing of things, you kind of get the hang of it. And if you have this as a template, you can always change things around as long as you know which ones to change. The reason why I show you this is not because I have an infatuation with the 60s. I wasn't around in the 60s, so contrary to popular belief in the mustache and hat. Right. But what you'll notice is that this came out of something that, like, it became like a passion project for me. You're like, it's a spreadsheet. How can it be a passion project, right? Well, my mom is now 81. All right. But for her 80th birthday, like, she's always like, I love it when my kids make stuff. When I was 5, I'd cut out the little heart for Valentine's Day. Stephanie can talk to this now. Or, like the little picture frame or something like that. So I was like, all right, well, I'm going to get her something. We'll go to dinner, that type of thing. But she's always like looking at technology also. And I was like, well, let me try to build something here. So she A, knows what I do at work, and B, she'll be like, oh, my son made this for me. And so this became a project where we picked different games in each decade. So like the 40s was a crossword puzzle, the 50s was a jumble, et cetera, to where she could go back and she could think about, oh my God, this happened during my life. Oh, this happened during my life, that type of thing. And so I got to practice a lot of these techniques of building these things, not just for class, but for something that I was building as a birthday gift for mom. And now, because I learned certain things, now I could pull pieces of them out and say, okay, I want to do a word search for, social studies. I can do that. I want to do a guess the year thing for famous scientists and Nobel Peace Prize winners. I can do that too. So I would highly encourage you in this whole learning in disguise type of thing is to make sure that you're finding ways to practice things that you can have fun with. Because to just go ahead and write a bunch of formulas on an everyday basis without having some fun with it can get very tedious very quickly.
Yeah, this is really cool. And I think too, if you took this template, made a copy of it, all you would have to do is come up with different questions, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then add your answers here.
Yeah, yep. What you would do is you would add your answers into columns G and H. Right. And then the only other thing you would have to do is, if you want the drop downs, is to go ahead and use data validation here. But there's a little pencil at the bottom that you can edit, and you can actually change all the different years here. So if I only want to make it a choice of 3, I could do that. If I want to make it true, false, I could do that. If I want to make it, a whole different set of years, I can do that too. So yeah, and just the only thing is as long as the two things match up, then they'll turn green. You can do a far more simpler version of it to get started too. You don't have to have every bell and whistle that was in this one, but again, it was for mom, and 80 comes around only once. So I figured, let me add a couple of extras.
Perfect.
So, yeah, and groovy at the same time.
Yeah, and groovy for sure.
Yeah.
All right. Do you care if I share a surprise and delight since you have a little bit of time?
No, absolutely not.
Okay, so this is one of my favorite brain breaks. So what you do is you tell the students nailed it or failed it, and it's CAT edition. So we have to vote. And usually what I do, because it's a brain break, is I just tell my students to stand up because they've been sitting maybe for way too long. And so we stand up and we go to one side of the room to the other. And so we're going to watch this quick video of this cat. Or wait, not this video. This is the intro video. Okay, so here's the actual one. So we're going to decide if this kitty cat or this cat is not really. So what students do is they would stand up and they would go to the right hand side if it failed or nailed it, and then failed it would go to the left. And then what happens is in the slide deck, you just go on to the next video. And then we actually watch to see what happened. And he nailed it. So there's a couple different videos in here, and I might just do some rounds with my students, just so they can get that quick brain break. What do you think, Ted?
He's going to nail it. Now, if that was me, Stephanie, I would have failed all of them. So just so you know.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's see what he does. Oh, I didn't go to the next video. Do that often. Okay.
Yeah.
That's pretty bad, right?
He like aborted the launch.
I know.
Like,
this one's a good one too, though. Okay, one more. But there's all kinds of slides in here with this activity.
You know, Stephanie, I once did a LeBron James impression just like that, just so you know.
What do you think? Nailed it, or did he fail it?
Failed.
I hear failed in the chat, in the audience.
Yeah.
Yeah. So those things can just be fun surprises and delights where you're like, all right, we got an extra, 2 minutes. We're going to watch some of these videos and we're going to vote real quick on if the cat failed it or nailed it. Because again, surprise and delights are all about that building that relationship piece with your students. And so we just want to know, what questions do you guys have for us? So we have about 9-ish minutes for any questions that you have. Feel free to come up if we can't hear you. And then feel free to ask questions if you don't want to live on Twitter, or we can also put our emails in the slide deck as well.
Mm-hmm. And while you guys are thinking of questions real quick, just along these learning in disguise things too, if you do follow us on social media, you might have noticed one of the posts like on Wednesday had to do with zips and golden flashes and all that kind of stuff, right? There's so many different ways that you can disguise when you're trying to teach somebody something. And I'm sure the Ohioans picked up a little more on what I was doing than some of the followers in New Jersey and elsewhere who are like, this is like some cryptic message. But basically what it was is I had the mascots of like, I think 10 of the universities in Ohio on there. So there's all kind of ways you can kind of sneak in learning. And so anytime you can do it and you can make it fun, it's great. So.
And here are the slides. So it is a bit.ly, so it does matter the cap. So it is capital F when you get there. And again, feel free to come up and ask any questions. If there are no questions, thank you so much for joining us. Again, we're going to do this session again. Let me look at the time. 2:45, and it's going to have different shares from the presentation. So if you're interested to hear what we didn't cover, you'll hear it during that round.
Stephanie, some of the jokes might be the same though. Is that going to be a problem?
Yeah, I mean, we could do an outfit change.
I don't have another mustache to put on though.
I know mine are not sticking.
Okay.
Thank you.